It's the Odd Drunk Podcast, a very strange podcast, the drunkest show in the world. It's Jackson and Colton talking out of their ass. We don't care as long as drinks are poured. Sometimes we have our friends here. We will talk about anything. We don't care as long as we have beer. And if you let that whiskey ring. The Odd Drunk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Odd Drunk Podcast. We are back from our break and we are ready to rumble.
Yeah.
In a wrestling themed episode. No, but we should do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, we are back to normal here. Well, have we ever been normal? We are the Odd Drunk Podcast after all.
Yeah, normal's not what we do.
The weird is our new normal.
I'm sure there are some weirder podcasts out there, but
there's a lot of podcasts out there.
We don't talk about those ones.
No. We're in a whole sea of weirdness and horrible things here on the internet, but hopefully we're a nice little pocket that you found. Anyways, we just got done with our Spooktober series all last month, all spooky topics. But we're back to normal now.
Yeah, it was a good
How does it feel?
Feels good. Yeah.
It went by fast.
It did. October
in
general went by really fast.
October blew by, but maybe it felt like September was just like a week ago for me,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe it's just because we're getting older. And you know how you always hear old people say, "Oh, you don't know how time flies and everything." Why does it feel that way?
Yeah.
It was sad. We've taken down all our Halloween decorations because we basically put them up in September, so we had them for a couple months.
Yeah.
Our tradition is though we do a Halloween tree, so we actually put up the Christmas tree early.
Nice.
And then we just keep the tree and then redecorate it for Christmas, of course.
Nice.
But we're not weird enough where we decorate for other holidays like Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I started taking down my Halloween decorations. Been lazy about it, but I refuse to put up Christmas stuff yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait a couple weeks.
Don't get me wrong. Like I like getting in the Christmas spirit and I enjoy the holiday season, so I don't mind hearing Christmas songs on the radio a little early. I'm not one of those people that gets really sour about it. But I refuse to put up Christmas decorations until Thanksgiving.
That's fair.
Out of principle.
Yeah, usually I wait around till Thanksgiving. But yeah, it was a good opportunity to do some deep cleaning in the apartment again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, took down all decorations, cleaned up. So, you know, that worked out.
I was also doing a bunch of deep cleaning in the apartment today. Not because I was taking down decorations. I actually just intended to just tidy up a little bit. And then
it's always good to do. You know, that's part of adulting.
Then I got carried away, like reorganizing everything.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up spending like 3 hours on it.
I'll spend 3 hours on the dumbest thing, like reorganizing my figures or something like that, like even slightly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy could look better like or I'll spend 3 hours just reorganizing my closet, which it needed to be done.
Yeah.
But whenever I do anything like that, it's not just a quick thing. I tear it all down, make a huge mess, and then I'm like, okay, now I got to clean up this mess and organize again.
I reorganized our closet a little bit. I'm very proud of myself. I had the idea to put up some hooks on the inside of the closet so my fiance can hang her purses from the hooks. And
did you announce it on the podcast? I don't think you did.
I don't think so. Yeah.
You just said it. Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah, Colton is engaged. But big moment in his life. I like that coffee mug.
Oh yeah, The Office.
Maybe we're doing video.
But no, I was very proud of myself. I had the idea of putting up some hooks so she could hang her bags, her unused purses and bags from the wall inside the closet instead of taking up shelf space. I thought that was a clever idea.
That's a good idea. Anyways, enough of all that boring adulting stuff. We're the Odd Drunk Podcast. We're here to drink and entertain. And you can already see the title of this episode. We are continuing our video games in time series.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, must ask you the age-old question. What are you drinking tonight? Today.
Well, I mentioned before we started recording, I had a bottle of wine that I was gonna drink. It was a red Zinfandel, and I had a glass of it with my lunch, and it made me feel kind of weird. So I decided to not drink any more of that. And I'm drinking some sweet tea and blueberry vodka. The blueberry vodka, which has appeared multiple times on the podcast, the same bottle.
Yeah,
not new bottles.
we won it in the trivia contest.
So
Don't at us.
it's good to have around for situations like this where I'm like my initial drink plan
Right.
fell through, so I'm like, yeah, this is good enough.
I actually went out and bought some stuff this time because I'm running low on my reserves, so to say. I mostly just have some wine left over. I haven't tried it yet, actually. I tried my other thing.
What is it?
This here from Santan Brewing Company, the Lumberjack Oatmeal
Oh.
Maple Amber Ale.
Ooh,
Um,
that sounds nice.
From Chandler, Arizona. Trying more of my local breweries in my new
Nice.
neck of the woods here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that brewery. They must be relatively
it's
small.
a
Yeah.
nice drink for the colder, for that sweater weather.
Yeah.
For that 80
Hey.
degrees we're dealing with here.
Suckers. We had we have some days in the forecast coming up that are like 55 degrees. It's gonna be nice.
Yeah, for the highs.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be nice on one hand because it's nice to have kind of good fall weather. But on the other hand,
Right.
I'm actually like transitioning away from using my car as much because my car has a lot of mechanical issues that I can't really afford to fix right now. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to ride a bike or take the bus and walk. In a small town like this, it's totally reasonable.
Oh, definitely.
But the cold makes it kind of sucky trying to do that.
Yeah,
So-
that's no fun. Yeah, it's gonna get down in upper 70s next week,
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah.
Also, for all you other normies out there, daylight savings just happened. So what means for us,
Yeah.
we are in the same time zone again, which
Yeah.
makes it a little easier for recording. So I appreciate that. I didn't even have to think about it. It's weird. I can't think of that many places where there's no time change in the United States. But
There's only
Arizona's
a
one of
few
them.
states. Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona just goes by Arizona time, basically, which is essentially, from what I've understood, Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah.
But if there's no daylight savings, that's what it is equivalent to. It's not Pacific time. It's not Mountain Daylight Savings Time. And a lot of Arizonans I've seen like on Reddit and like, no, it's Arizona time. We have our own time, and technically that's true.
Yeah.
So that's a cool little nugget.
Arizona is weird like that because it's Mountain Standard Time during the winter, but during the summer
then
it's
during-
California time. It's West Coast.
No. During the summer, it's essentially. I'm pretty sure California Pacific time is still an hour behind us. I don't know exactly how it all works, or maybe not.
You were an hour behind.
Oh yeah, we would
Colorado,
be
and
Pacific time.
That's
Yeah,
Pacific time. It's weird. I don't know.
we're Pacific time during the summer, Mountain time during the winter.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just different like that over here. But yeah, it was nice not worry about it. I mean, honestly, it's both a blessing and a curse here, at least where I live. You wouldn't know any difference between fall and winter. It's
Yeah.
a little cooler. I haven't lived here during the winter. I mean, what I expect, yeah, it's gonna maybe get down in the 60s for the highs, but I'm not gonna cry about that. Pretty excited. You don't have to shovel out the sunshine.
Right.
That's what this is. But I'm not looking forward to those to next July, to those couple hot months next summer. That's brutal.
Jeez.
But
Yeah.
anyways, I also got something else special here. I've been thinking about it for a long time, looking at it as I pass by. It sounded stupid, but I decided to try it. Maybe it was stupid. It's not bad at all, though. And after looking at some reviews of like people saying, "Oh, this is actually a good thing," I got Screwball
Oh yeah.
peanut butter whiskey. It's essentially a liqueur. Let's be real.
Pretty much.
Calling it a whiskey is a stretch.
Yeah.
But it is. I quite like it. I made it with I looked up some cocktails, some seasonal ones. I made it with some hot apple cider.
Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah.
Pretty good. And it's actually one of from my bit of research looking at reviews, because I was like, I want to try this, but I want to see what other people think about it, because I'm not going to just blow $25 if it's just garbage, unanimously
Right.
garbage. But I read this review from Bon Appetit that said, "Believe it or not, this peanut butter whiskey is legitimately good. As a professional drinks writer, I never thought I'd say this, but Screwball is a flavor whiskey worth buying." And I would have to agree. I want to get it all the time, because it's definitely on the sweet side, very syrupy. But as for flavored drinks, flavored whiskeys go,
yeah. I hear
it's a very genuine peanut butter flavor. Like
I hear it's really good with hot chocolate.
It does not taste artificial.
Yeah. I hear it's good with hot chocolate. Get like a Reese's.
Ooh, I could imagine.
Peanut butter cup.
Like a Reese's
flavor.
cup.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not tried it myself, but we sell it at the liquor store that I work at.
I would give it a shot if you have stuff to mix it with.
Yeah. Yeah. So people seem to like it. Yeah.
I mean, definitely, it's definitely one of those things where you could drink a whole bottle of it without realizing it. It just tastes like.
It's not too bad on the ABV, isn't it? It's
no, it's only 35%.
That's not too bad,
which is expected from like a liqueur type of a drink.
Well, that's still not like too bad. There's a lot of liqueurs that are like 25% stuff. Like
right,
that,
and that at that point, what's the point?
Right.
And I would say I recommend the Santan Brewing, the Lumberjack.
Nice. Yeah.
It says it's a maple amber, but it's very subtle with the maple. Like, I wouldn't even say it's maple forward, not my nickname in high school, but I would say just a little hint of maple at the end.
Little hint of maple at the end. That was your nickname in college.
Mm-hmm. You got that right, ladies. No, I can't say that anymore. Anyways, let's get into this episode before things get a little weird, too weird.
Right. We're doing video games in time again. One of my favorite series that we do.
Oh, definitely.
And this was an easy one to prepare for.
I forget. No, I picked out this year.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I picked out this year, 2015. So this is a more recent one. I mean, well, 8 years old now at this point.
Yeah, recent.
Which is crazy hard to comprehend, But I was like, Bloodborne came out this year. That's the only one I really remembered. That and like Arkham Knight. But there's so many like great games. I would say amazing game of the year contender type games that came out this year. Just at first glance, I'm like, yeah, this is already probably going to be a S tier year. But let's really go through and evaluate it. Just some of the big ones. I mentioned Bloodborne. got Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, got
Yes.
Fallout 4, got Batman Arkham Knight, and I'm not. Oh yeah, The Witcher 3.
Mhm.
It says The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone.
Witcher 3 came out. The DLC is also released that year too.
Don't know why it doesn't. Oh yeah, there it is. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I
Yeah.
always, for some reason, I thought that came out in 2013. I don't know why. I was like, that game was just way ahead of its time. Uh, it still was, and it still is. It's still an amazing game.
It released in
Um,
May of 2015.
But those
Yeah.
are just a few of the games here. A few of the big ones, but there's a lot of little sleeper hits and really good indie games that came out this year.
Yeah.
But before we dive in, I just want to go back and look at the previous years we've covered and what we've ranked them. And we
Yeah.
can kind of reevaluate that, see if our minds change or whatever. So we've covered 1989, 91, and 2002 and 2012. Every time we do one of these, reiterating that 2012 was an extremely mid-year, not particularly bad, not particularly good.
Yeah.
We ranked it
I
a
mean,
C.
nothing special.
Really,
in
the
2012.
only thing of note that came out that year was Dishonored and Borderlands 2. I don't even know if it was the original Borderlands. I know it was a lot of sequels that year.
I think it might have been Borderlands 2.
And there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
sequels.
Borderlands
In fact,
2, Far
most
Cry
of these
3, Diablo
Yeah.
3, a lot of sequels. Dishonored.
And this is, of course, for anyone listening, this is all subjective. This is our opinions. If you disagree with us, let us know. Let us know if you think any of these years deserve a better ranking, or if there's particular games that we dog that you're like, no, actually, it's a good game. Damn it! Then let us know, please. I would like to know your thoughts. Are you there?
Yeah.
Wait, you looked frozen.
Oh no, I was
I guess you were
reading.
just really still. Okay. Um, and so we gave that a C. And then 2002, we gave an A because you had games like Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusion. So two
Yeah.
big Metroid games. You had Mario Sunshine, I believe.
Mhm.
Other games, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember.
2002 was just a really solid game year for
There was a lot of good Game Boy Advance
the
games.
GBA. I think it was
Yeah.
Morrowind came out
Oh
that
yeah,
year.
Morrowind, of course.
Yeah, let's see. Vice City.
Vice City. Yeah.
Metroid Prime.
The Wind Waker.
Right, Wind
Yeah, it was a
Waker. Yeah, it was
solid
pretty
year.
good year.
Definitely a solid year.
Yeah.
And then 89 and
Hearts.
91. And maybe it's a bit of nostalgia playing into this, but they both got S rankings. But I think
Yeah.
for legitimately good reasons, if you listen to those episodes, the games we talk about and what we explain. Now this is all relative, of course. We're not saying, well, yeah, it's relative. I mean, we're comparing it to these games to, the era it came out in, and how important they were, and how fun they are to play.
Yeah.
Not every game has to be, no pun intended, a game changer, but are they fun to play? Do they say something? Do they have a good, unique art direction? Did they introduce a mechanic that other games didn't do in the past? That's kind of what we're looking at here. Anyway, and also just games that are cherished among our memories. Like I said, I picked out 2015 because of Bloodborne. So before I get on my Bloodborne rant, let's talk about some other games here. Well,
Right.
also, I failed to realize that, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out.
Yeah,
And when
Phantom
that game
Pain,
came out, that was the first real Metal Gear. Well, I played Ground Zeroes before that, and I played a bit of like Snake Eater and stuff, but not seriously and not well. I wasn't really into stealth games, especially as a kid, and anything where you had to take the time to think wasn't good for me. But Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, when it came out, I considered it to be one of the best games I've ever played, ever, of all time.
Oh, I mean,
And it's
it's
still uh I went back to it for this, and I've played it on and off again. I think my last save before I went back to prep for this was like 2020.
yeah.
Like, it is just one of those games that keeps giving. I've gone through the story multiple times. I just like, roaming around,
I mean,
getting into shenanigans.
say what you will about the story and like the weird shit that it pulls, because
Oh
it
yeah.
is weird. But
Well, I mean, it was the last Kojima Metal Gear too,
yeah,
and
it
Kojima gets
is.
weird with it.
Yeah, it is probably one of the best stealth shooter, stealth action games ever made.
Oh yeah,
Um,
easily.
the other thing, I was playing it, recently in preparation for this, and the thing that hit me is not just how good of a stealth game it is, but there's kind of a genre of games out there now, like Arma and what was it, the Ghost Recon or whatever those games are called, that are kind
Oh
of
yeah,
just like
Tom Clancy's.
sandbox military, like special ops, like simulator type of games.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, I mean, does, even though that's not like the point of the game, it does that better than like any of those games do. Just the idea
Well,
of
I
being
remember,
dropped into enemy territory, and you have to
I remember my uncle and his buddies. I was hanging out with them during this time, and we were playing Dark Souls and stuff, and playing some old. Actually, we were playing Zone Enders. That's such a weird series. Just look up some of those mechs and their phallic designs. Um, I mean, they literally have a cockpit.
You're right.
But yeah, Zone Enders. But I remember one of his buddies was just like super super hyped up about the new Metal Gear, and he was like, "This is gonna be like a groundbreaking game," and he was showing me trailers and like stuff for it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm on board." I played Ground Zeroes. I was like, I'm definitely into what's going on for the new Metal Gear, but I wasn't like, "Oh, this is gonna be like a life-changing game."
Yeah.
But going through, I mean, at least in the early story missions where it's not, well, it gets weird pretty quick, honestly. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about lore wise, and like, all the people like Psycho Mantis and stuff, like young Psycho Mantis, and you're playing as Big Boss,
Yeah.
but
So
not.
yeah, so it's the
I forget
second.
everything that happens.
So it is chronologically the second game in the
It's
series, I think. Second main
Yeah, and it's
line,
a prequel
at
to
least.
the first Metal Gear.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of really weird stuff in it. I mean, it basically serves as like um a way to explain, like, the whole twist of you're not actually playing as Big Boss is serving as a way to kind of explain how did Big Boss have the time to build up was the private military that he has.
Diamond Dogs.
Oh, not
Or
Diamond
no,
Dogs.
that's what
The
started as, and then it became the
what are they called?
Fox,
I
something
don't
Fox.
remember, but he
It
basically,
was French. It was a French name.
yeah, but he builds up that private military force, the one that you are fighting against in the original Metal Gear, basically.
Yeah.
So it's explaining how that came to be, and this game is basically saying like all the shit that happened in Snake Eater and that happened before this game takes place. You have this fake Big Boss who's basically just drawing all the attention so that the real Big Boss can go off and prepare for the first Metal Gear game.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
There's a lot of crazy big story moments and cutscenes in this, and a lot of unexpected stuff. But it's also James Bond in this presentation. I love the setting in the 80s in Afghanistan, and it's got you collect different music tapes and stuff.
Do you ever have that's the best part of the game is collecting the music tapes. Do you ever have like you're watching a movie, like an action movie, and you get the hankering, you want to go play a video game that's like reminds you of that movie you just watched?
This is one of those games.
I was watching Kingsman, the Secret Service, the other day, and I was thinking, I was like, what would be a video game that would kind of scratch that itch? And this is the first thing that came to mind of like, yeah, this isn't like British spy stuff, but it's still like kind of has that same attitude.
Like has high action spy thriller. And I love, there's so many good moments. Like I know there's a mission where you have to like follow these tanks and stuff, and you ride around a horse a lot in the game. So there was a lot of moments that felt like Indiana Jones to me, like I love D-Horse. But like chasing down tanks on your horse and jumping off and doing crazy stunts, and the game gives you a lot of freedom to tackle any mission how you want to. You can play pure stealth, or you could just be a madman with rocket launchers. You're probably gonna die pretty quickly if you do that, but you can do it. And
it does,
and, it has an honor system. You get the bigger horn, like your shrapnel horn and stuff, the more you kill people. And I remember there was just so many moments that I was like, wow, this is... I think I've talked about this before, maybe not on this podcast, but I know I talked about it with you, where a game just has those kind of spontaneous moments that either are extremely like well hidden, like the way it's scripted, or it's not scripted and it's just the way the AI is working and everything.
Emergent gameplay.
Yeah, it has a lot of those moments where I'm like, just
there's a
the
few
way
games
the game
from
works.
This year on that we'll talk to that do a really good job with the emergent gameplay sort of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, like stuff like last time I was playing it, I don't remember even what mission it is, but it's you have to rescue a hostage, and I found myself like I was doing a really good job, silently taking out the guards, and I got down into this basement where the hostage was, and really quickly, like within 30 seconds, I was on my back on the floor with the machine gun out, like mowing down people because who were coming through the door because I made one little mistake.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a moment where you get attacked by the super soldiers. I forget exactly what they're called.
The skull unit, whatever they are.
The skull units, and they're like basically not quite teleporting around, but they're super fast and strong, and they'll kill you pretty quick if they get you. And there was a moment where I was all out of ammo. I killed a few of them, but there was just one stalking me with a machete, and I was like slowly crawling away, about to die. And then I literally backed into a anti-aircraft unit emplacement, and then I shot him down with that, and it ended the mission. And it felt, that game has so many of those like emergent moments where it's like the way the game's design allows so much freedom and like with the action that I think everybody could have a unique experience, and it felt like the game was catered to like exactly how I went about the mission. And also another standout mission from that game is when you first encounter Quiet.
Oh yeah, that's a super cool sequence.
Sniper v sniper, cat v mouse thing, and you're crawling around and she's teleporting around, and then you get her on her team, and then you can get some nice outfits for her. Let's just put it that way.
Very
Kojima did not. Very Kojima, very anime with Quiet, with the physics. But there were so many surprise moments, and especially as someone that was new to the Metal Gear lore and everything at the time, like I vaguely knew about it, and I've seen some gameplay, and I played some of the older games. it was just extremely refreshing at the time, but but it still felt like an amazing just action open world game. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
open world with purpose. And we've discussed this numerous times, either on this podcast or over on Morning Oddities, where so many games feel the need to be an open world, and we'll fill the world with a bunch of collectathon activities and a bunch of side quests with no purpose. But this game had big open areas, but it wasn't an open area just for the sake of being an open world game. No, you were put into this big open area on linear missions, and
Yeah.
it just had really good direction. I think there's something to be said about direction and purpose and focus in games that becomes lost in a lot of stuff. Like
Yeah, that
we
is
were
a good
talking
good
about
point.
it last
It
night.
manages to be open world, but while still being very, very focused.
It doesn't play like an open world,
Yeah. But it still like
if
enjoys
that makes sense.
but it's still, because it is an
It
open world, you can
utilizes it.
still enjoy like the fun parts of an open world.
Yeah, and you can still mess around, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of times where I was just crawling around in the box and
Oh,
and
yeah, I do
collecting
love,
guys, putting the parachute on them, recruiting them.
I
That was
think
always
the
fun.
Metal Gear games strike that perfect balance between being like very serious and even at sometimes very dark,
But then they also get extremely campy.
completely campy and goofy. Like,
Well, if you fail at a mission, I forget how many times, but if you fail at a mission too much, it will give you the option to get the chicken head gear, where
yeah,
like
or
it's really hard for
there's
enemies to
also
detect
stuff
you, and like
when I was replaying it recently, I noticed when you're doing like the prologue mission where you're escaping from that burning hospital, which the guy helping you escape, that is the actual big boss. So it's Big Boss is showing you
then
how to
that's
play
the
the game.
twist that comes in
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
But it's really funny because it doesn't try to do that like video game thing where it says like where he'll say, oh, steady yourself and aim down the sights to hit your target. And then it'll show on the screen what you're supposed to press. No, Big Boss actually says press right or left trigger to aim down your sights.
Yeah.
Like the characters in the game talk as if they know they're in a video game, which is hilarious.
Well, that's happened before in the Metal Gear series,
yeah,
where
but
Psycho
I
Mantis
just
is like, I know your memory card and whatever, and
yeah, well,
he shakes your
I'm just talking about
controller.
like the entire series in general does a great job with like that sort of silliness.
Yeah.
I do like there's when you first unlock the cardboard box, I think it's Ocelot is the one, he gets on your radio and tells you that they developed this cardboard box, and he's like, his comment is, he goes like, oh, Kazuhira said that you would want this. I don't quite understand why, but he says just to like,
Right.
you should have one of these.
And you get all the
box.
memes, why are we still here, and stuff like that. And also David Bowie. Man who sold the world.
Killer.
I don't think it's his version. I think it's a different version, but
no, it's not the original version.
But yeah, killer soundtrack on that game, and like all the Billy Idol and stuff you can unlock. I think there's some cult songs in there.
She blinded me with
you can have a lot of fun with that
stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of fun 80s stuff. That's just one of the games that came out this year. We could go on and on about it.
That alone is.
I'm looking at the game of the year.
Worth it. I want to, before we move on,
yeah,
because it's related to Metal Gear, I want to talk about another game real quick. There's not a lot to say about it, but it came out on the same day as Phantom Pain, so it got overshadowed, but it's actually really solid. Is Mad Max.
Oh yeah,
came out in 2015. That's a surprisingly.
That's kind of a sleeper hit.
Yeah, a surprisingly solid open world game. It has the Arkham style combat, which is good, but it does a good job of like, you have like shotgun shells that are instant kills, but you only have so many shells at any time, so you have to use it carefully. So it's good resource management. Right. But the coolest part of the game is that throughout the game you build up your Mad Max muscle car, and customize
Yeah, I've
it,
seen some gameplay. I've never
and
played it
upgrade it.
myself, but
And that's just, I mean, there's not a lot to say about it, other than it's a
it was just
surprisingly
forgotten.
good. Yeah, well, it was forgotten partly because it's a movie tie-in, which
Yep.
everyone always writes off immediately as like not worth our time, even though
They are mostly bad.
yeah, it's a movie tie. Well, it's sort of a movie tie-in. Like it was a tie-in with Fury Road.
It's not
it kind of serves as its
adaptation.
yeah, it serves as its kind of own version of the Mad Max universe. But
Yeah.
also it came out on the same day as Phantom Pain. So why would anyone play Mad Max when they could play Phantom Pain?
Well, yeah, I'm glad I live in the universe where I got Phantom Pain.
Yeah, but that is a surprisingly
But somewhere
good
out
game that
there,
did
I
come
got
out
Mad
this year.
Max. Somewhere out there in the multiverse, I got Mad Max, and I'm ranting why it's such an underrated classic and such a great game, and that, I should have got Phantom Pain, but I got Mad Max instead. I'm just looking at the Game Awards, Game of the Year nominees. So yeah, Witcher 3
Yes.
won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. There's other award programs because I know Undertale. I forget which one, like which Game Awards thing it did, but I know Undertale also got Game of the Year. But with the Game Awards, yeah, The Witcher 3 won, and I know we're about to talk about that here in a second.
Yeah.
But some of the other nominees were Fallout 4, Bloodborne, Phantom Pain, and Super Mario Maker, which we were talking about a bit last
Yeah.
on our morning oddities.
I mean, I will hold to Super Mario Maker as one of those games that it was really good. Super Mario Maker 2 came out and kind of proved that the first game was really kind of just testing the grounds.
Yeah.
And then the second, because Mario Maker 2 is way, way better.
There's so much more you can do,
but
many more tools.
I mean, it's definitely worth like a good mention because it's a really cool franchise. We talked about it on Morning Oddities. Mario Maker 2 is probably the best Mario game you can buy on the Switch, because it's basically infinite Mario levels.
Yeah, and I have it
at whatever difficulty that you want them to be at. Like,
well, it's hard to say that it's like equivalent to like an actual Mario game release, like with Mario Wonder.
Yeah, true.
It seems a little unfair, but if you just want as much Mario as possible,
yeah,
and the 2D platforming experience, yeah, just get Mario Maker.
Some of the discussion that I've heard around Mario Wonder,
for days.
At least leading up to Mario Wonder, when they had just announced it, was along the lines of they have to do something kind of to make it fun, like refresh the series a little bit.
Yeah, and they absolutely did.
But the reason why people were feeling
refreshing.
like they have to do something like that is because they're like, because Super Mario Maker has pretty much exhausted all of the options for the old formula.
Yeah.
Like, so they have to refresh
so
it.
I would say, yeah, the original Super Mario Maker, while it is superseded by its sequel, still is a great, kind of platform of a game.
Yeah.
But getting into some of the other contender, well, let's okay, elephant in the room. Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Still to this day, one of the best RPGs of all time.
Oh, it's probably in my.
And I don't think there's any game. I mean, at least in its format, open world action RPG, I don't think there's any game recently that has really superseded it. I think there's games that have, been equivalent to it, like Elden Ring and like with Tears of the Kingdom and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think Witcher 3 stands on its own as its own experience. I mean, just with the dialogue with Geralt and all the different characters and Yennefer and everything, and like the beginning quest, it just feels like there was so much care put into it, and it feels It's actually
mean,
kind of mind-boggling that it came out in 2015. It feels more like a 2018 release to me.
I mean, Witcher 3, I think what it does, the two things it does, I think, so expertly is it manages to combine like a deep narrative RPG with a pretty fast-paced action style
Yeah.
game. Because you look at the Souls franchise, they do the action RPG, expertly, but they're
Yeah,
not
that's
these deep
From
narrative
Software's.
RPGs though. Or
No,
you
you're
look at
you're reading the lore from a pair of gloves, you know?
yeah, or you look at something like um recent Baldur's Gate 3 and uh Larian stuff before that, the Divinity games, which do the narrative RPG expertly. And while the gameplay is fun, it's not an action RPG.
No, I mean
It's
with Baldur's Gate 3, it's about as pure of an RPG as you can get.
yeah. And
Really.
Witcher
You're
3
playing
manages
D&D,
to combine
essentially.
those two style like games really, really well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's kind of looking
Well, that's a
back,
beautiful game.
oh yeah, yeah.
Even just the original version, not the remastered. Like I played the original a few years back. I got it on sale. They're always having a good sale on it for some reason, but uh I got it with all the DLC and I was just blown away. And then
Yeah.
just recently they came out with the ray tracing version with the 4K upscaling and whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I play on now on PS5. And then I heard the Switch version actually runs well. I haven't played it on Switch though.
The Switch version is surprisingly good. I've been playing it on the Steam Deck, which is great. But I mean, the other thing that it does, which I guess like this shouldn't be impressive, and there's a few games from, this year that do a good job with it too. But The Witcher 3, when it comes to the amount of content they gave you that was all quality content,
Mm-hmm.
is just mind-boggling. I mean, it's one of those games where just running through the story, not doing a lot of side content, it's a 60-hour game.
No, it's a long play game.
And then on top of that, there's a side content, and then on top of that, there's the 2 DLCs, which add 20 hours of gameplay each.
It's a huge game.
Like it's insane.
Don't expect to just jump into Witcher 3 to play a couple hours and, feel I think that's the only thing to its, detriment is it's a long play game. It's not something you can just jump into. You got to dedicate a lot of time into it. But it's worth it. It's it's definitely worth it.
And I personally I love the writing in the game. I mean, Geralt is one of my favorite video game protagonists. Of all time. That's a game that
what a Chad.
I remember it came out in 2015. I didn't buy it immediately. I bought it later that year. Didn't play it very much, but maybe 10, 15 hours into it because I got distracted by Fallout 4.
Which also came out this year.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. And then it was after I moved to when we were living in the dorms, and I re-downloaded Witcher 3.
I know you got huge into it at that time.
And got obsessed with it and played nothing but The Witcher 3 for like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, there's not many open world games that outclass it even to this day. I mean, it is so timeless. Like it feels like it could have came out last year, especially with the remaster they just did.
And it is one of those games too where I've played it enough where I can kind of jump in and play it little bits at a time, because I don't know. I mean, you know how like
I must admit though, I've only put about 40 hours into it, which is nothing.
Noob. Yeah.
So it is a game I do plan on playing a lot more. But there's been a lot of new games this year, so it's been hard.
Yeah, I only have so
to
much
play
time.
everything. But
But you know,
yeah.
sometimes when you play a game and then you get distracted by other games or by life or whatever, and you go back to it and you have to like you don't remember what's going on in the game.
It
So
feels so new.
Witcher 3 is one of them where I'm familiar enough with it where I don't have that problem of I don't remember what's happening in the
Well,
game,
another game
so
on
I can
this
pick it up
list.
at any point and just play it for a bit. So it's kind of one of those games that has a permanent spot on my hard drive.
So what are the games you actually picked up in 2015?
Fallout 4 I played launch night.
Oh, me too. Fallout
Yeah.
4 launch, yes.
I remember pre-downloading it and playing it at 9 p.m. on the night before it launched.
I didn't pre-download it. I got the physical copy.
Oh, nice.
That's
Yeah.
when I still cared about the physical copies.
Well, I was playing on PC by this point.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, fair.
I had a
They
desktop.
don't. Yeah, there's no physical games are completely dead on PC at this point.
Yeah.
Even then, it was hard to find a physical.
Although I did see a physical copy of the PC version of Fallout 4 at Walmart a few months ago, which was
really
wild.
That's wild.
I was like, but I'm like, has this been
I remember
since 2015?
I drove all the way to a mall that had it. I checked at the GameStop because it was selling pretty fast. I just drove there, got the game, and didn't look at anything else because I was so excited for it, and then drove all the way back. And it was like, a good 20-minute drive each way. Not too far, but far enough where, I could have taken some time to look at around at the mall, but I was just so excited. I put that thing in. And yeah, Fallout 4, even just the vanilla version, which I played for most of my time. Yeah, it's not without its problems. It's not a perfect game. I mean, it's a Bethesda game. It's got all their quirks, but the voiced protagonist was a kind of controversial thing at the time. But
yeah,
I played New Vegas and then I played Skyrim, so I was so ready for Fallout 4. And at my first playthrough, I was into the voice protagonist. I actually thought it was cool and fun. I was like, oh, we can actually it feels more immersive this way because we're playing a real, character. But then then I quickly got tired of it.
Yeah, because
there wasn't enough good dialogue options.
Yeah, the voice protagonist, I think the main problem with it is that after you start to feel limited in like your actual role playing because
the way I played Bethesda games though,
the problem is it's like you take something like The Witcher 3, which has a voice protagonist, but it works there because this is an established character that they're giving you.
Yeah, and you're not expecting
all of the choices that you can make in the dialogue are all choices that Geralt would reasonably possibly choose.
Yeah.
Versus Bethesda doesn't do that style. They're trying to give you a sandbox.
Yeah, and that's well, in my first playthrough, I usually go through the main quest, do some side quests, but I stick in the main quest through line in my first playthroughs, and then after that, that's where I really go crazy and try different builds and different archetypes, and that's where Fallout 4 let me down at the time. Yeah. There was not a lot of freedom with choice and just the way your character acts and behaves because it's voiced, and it felt very scripted. I mean, it was obviously scripted.
Not that it doesn't have good side quests at all. Like there are some good ones in there, but
I love the Underground Railroad stuff.
But
still had
the problem is the Elder Scrolls has always been good about this. The other Fallout games kind of tie it into the main quest a little bit, but still have like their faction quests.
Yeah.
And the way Fallout 4 is structured is that all of the faction quests are the main story.
Yeah.
They're just alternate paths through the main story.
Right.
So it doesn't give you the option of like installing the game, getting an alternate start mod, and then just being a Brotherhood person, versus like
It
Skyrim,
was
you can just
definitely
ignore the main story and be, you know, you just go do the Thieves Guild.
it was definitely much weaker for the RPG aspects, but everything else, the gameplay, the world, was all
Yeah.
substantial improvements from previous Fallout games.
Oh yeah.
And I am a New Vegas diehard guy. And yeah, New Vegas is my favorite world. And technically, Bethesda didn't even make that. That was Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
And
Obsidian back
but
when
New
Obsidian
Vegas, the
still
gunplay,
had,
I don't care what you say. You use VATS 90% of the time in New Vegas because the gunplay was trash. And is the gunplay like Battlefield or Call of Duty levels in Fallout 4? No, and I'm sure it's not in Starfield either. I'm sure it's pretty similar. But it's good enough.
Yeah.
And honestly, the world, I love the whole. I've always liked the Fallout aesthetic and everything. It's like retro futuristic 50s, but it's in the post-apocalypse. I felt like when you first step out of the vault, I just had that wow moment.
Yeah.
And
well, one thing is 'cause
Bethesda usually does a good job with that
when
wow
talking
moment.
about Phantom Pain, that emergent gameplay thing, and Fallout 4 is the other game from this year that comes to mind as does a really good job with the emergent gameplay. As you're wandering around the world, interesting stuff just happens.
Oh yeah, it does feel a bit more scripted.
Yeah,
but your first playthrough, you don't really realize that.
Yeah.
I think with emergent gameplay, I think what Phantom Pain, like, there's a few games that do this very well, like Phantom Pain, Red Dead Redemption 3. I mean 2, not 3. Maybe we'll be talking about that in the future. but where and Red Dead 2 it has tons of scripted moments, that feel like emergent gameplay. But I think what I'm really trying to get down to is where stuff happens just because of the game's mechanics and AI, not because it was a pre-scripted thing.
Well, Fallout 4
but there's still stuff like that.
Its share of
no, it still has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they have like Brotherhood of Steel patrols that will be wandering around and they'll get in fights, or you'll be wandering around and there will be pre-placed enemies, and yeah, the enemies are pre-placed, but like sometimes their AI does or doesn't lock onto you and attack you and stuff like that. I mean,
no, Fallout 4 still has plenty of that.
It's not as complex as like Phantom Pain's emergent gameplay, but it's there though, which is fun, and that is, I think, the best part of Fallout 4. I also
in your first playthrough, it's even the scripted moments, like random moments like with the UFO crash and stuff. In your first playthrough, those are all wow moments, like whoa, and then you go follow it and everything. However, Fallout 4.
Well, I was gonna say also before. Admittedly, also the settlement system, while it's controversial, I love the settlement system.
I didn't get too into it when I first got it. I'm more into it now than I was then.
In the default game, it's a little harder to get into because of like how the resource management, how that works. But
right.
But but when you get into it, which I think was where we were heading with mods.
So Fallout 4 still lives on to this today because of mods, and I have a heavily modded version that I've been playing through recently, where I have like different atmospheric mods, and I even have EMB. I deactivated it recently so I can get it running a little better. But I have the whole atmosphere where it feels like a different game. Like I have more greenery, like growing on buildings and like textures and stuff like that, more plant vegetation, and you can change the whole vibe of the game that way. And I have my game where it's it feels very eerie and spooky, but the mods are maybe about as good as Skyrim mods. I mean, they're pretty good.
I think they're easily as good as Skyrim mods. the difference between Fallout 4 and Skyrim when it comes to modding is I think Skyrim is a game that doesn't need it. So the mods just serve to enhance it. Fallout 4
Right.
does, I think, need the mods. If you do play with mods, it's awesome.
Well, yeah, just quality of life stuff even,
Um,
and like gunplay mods and like,
Yeah.
get different weapons and
It's like this difference of like
texture enhancements.
when I play modded Skyrim these days, because I've been modding Skyrim since 2012.
Right. Since its inception.
When I play Skyrim these days modded, I usually play kind of a vanilla plus style, which is why
Right.
like, I play on the Steam Deck often. And you can mod through the Nexus mod page on the Steam Deck, but it's kind of a pain in the ass because of the Linux system and how you have to set it up. So with Skyrim, I actually usually just play with the Bethesda.net like built-in mod support. Because with Skyrim, that's acceptable. You can just play with those mods and have a great time.
But Fallout 4, I have like 100+ mods.
Yeah, Fallout
and that's
4,
like a low.
I have a
low
good like
order.
80 something mods installed on Fallout 4 on my Steam Deck, and took forever to install them because there's a few ways you can do it. You can either get a mod organizer installed on the Steam Deck, which is a pain, or what you can do is basically just mod it on your PC and then transfer all the data files to the Steam Deck, which is what I did for Fallout 4. So I have like 80 something mods running on it.
Nice.
But I mean, I don't want to give Fallout 4 too much credit, because saying that a game is great with mods is not an excuse for the game, because
even vanilla though, yeah, I don't think it aged as well as a lot of these other games we're talking about. But you also can't ignore the mods because that's something you can do.
I do think that Fallout 4 has aged pretty well, but mainly just because it comes from an era that was before all of this really toxic like post-launch content attitude that developers have.
Right.
Like Fallout
that is
4
true.
Out of the gate is fine. It had issues at launch, some optimization and stuff like that, but like it's fine.
Well, and it's a fun world to play in. And
I think it's one of my favorite Fallout settings. I think Boston is a really good setting.
Boston.
I think there's some missed opportunity because there's so much like history in Boston that they kind of brush on the surface, but they could have made more of a thing. But
right.
I mean, I'm not going to knock at points for.
I love the quest
not
with
taking advantage of stuff that they could have.
What is it? The ship, the SS.
Oh yeah.
The old U.S. Navy ship.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called, but I know the
Washington. Maybe not the Washington.
I know the
but
quest
like with the robots running it. Yeah, it's a fun. It's a fun quest.
I find and I remember that quest because it's like the main character, his background is that he's a veteran, so it's like he it explains why you're able to use the power armor and stuff like that right off the bat without needing a perk for it. But like in quests like that, they do a good job of implementing like how he interacts with these robots because he was a military guy.
And also, you just mentioned the power armor was a huge upgrade compared to previous Fallout games. It actually felt like power armor. You suit up, and it has weight to it, and you have the bullets bouncing off you and stuff, and you get enough damage, you get certain pieces of.
I do agree with some of the criticisms that they give you the power armor way too early, and
but it was also
you don't have to earn it.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those big wow moments of the game.
Yeah, but like if they
but it is extremely easy.
If they were to say like remake Fallout 3 or New Vegas, if they didn't do Fallout 4 style power armor in those games, I would be disappointed.
We would all riot.
Yeah, I think that was awesome.
Well, I think it would be it would probably benefit even more in one of those games because it's so hard to get power armor. But like when you finally do, it'd be such a big upgrade. But like I've been running
about the power armor come to how it was implemented into the progression, not the actual power armor itself, because that was awesome. Like
but honestly, for all the Power Armor Brotherhood of Steel guys out there, you could just jump in the game and like immediately start a Power Armor build. Pretty much. I mean, once you
Yeah.
get to that one quest, early quest, you get some basic power armor, and
There's
then
some
you can
cool
run with
power
it.
armor customization in the game. You can put paint jobs on it and stuff.
Yeah, I actually have a
They
mod that adds like a Dragonborn style power armor with a
I
big
know
axe.
I know that one. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
There's there's a lot of power armor mods that add new power armor, new paint jobs, but even in the base game, there's the Adam Cats faction, which they're like greasers, basically.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that through that faction, you can basically get like you can soup up your power armor like you would a hot rod, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like it seems like
Well, and
such
you
a
can have
natural like thing with that 50s aesthetic that you
you
should
can
be
have
able
your
to do. Like
power armor garage and like stuff. And
Yeah.
I have a mod that has like a high tech bunker you go into, and it's
Yeah.
cheaty, but it's fun. Okay, where you can store all your power armor and stuff.
But it makes the power
but
armor
yeah,
feel more like an actual like a vehicle, like a thing.
yeah, that was always my
which is
problem with the
great.
other games. It was just one of those things you had to have high stats for, and it didn't feel like anything. It wasn't all that impressive. Yeah, it gave you good stats, but that's about it. It was very surface level. But yeah, in Fallout 4, the way they reinvented it is like it it changes the gameplay a bit. You know, you have that weight to your character, and you have the visor and everything you're looking through. But you can, if you're in first person, and like all the modifications you can do. I think that was one of the better parts about Fallout 4, as far as stuff it introduced.
And with mods, the settlement system also shines a bit more.
Oh yeah,
there's a great
like
mod,
quality of life stuff. And
there's a great mod. I think it's called Conquest, and there's no excuse to not play with it because every version of Fallout 4, including the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox, has this mod available, but it makes it so you can have settlements anywhere on the map.
Right, yeah,
it's awesome.
That should have been default, honestly.
But anyway,
but the next game I really want to talk about, Bloodborne. I remember this was one of the first games I bought that year, and I played Dark Souls before, sucked, got fed up, and quit. But then I, started seeing the press about Bloodborne up to its release, and I was like, oh, it's from the Dark Souls guys, but it looks more fast-paced, and it's in a cool Victorian kind of Lovecraftian setting.
The setting is amazing.
This dark horror, yeah. And I bought it, and man, I got good at it. And it was honestly at that time,
this game came out in March, so it was an early release for 2015.
Yeah, it was early in the year, and it took me a while to beat it. Actually, not because of the difficulty curve, and also it was just there was so much to explore, and I wasn't really trying to look up walkthroughs and stuff. I was really just getting into the game and grinding in the dungeons and stuff like that. But
I remember when we were roommates.
Yeah.
I've always kind of struggled with Dark Souls a little bit. Like, it's not that I don't appreciate the games, but it's like they're very slow. It's different from what I'm used to, and I haven't got to the point where it's clicked with me yet, which is why I liked Elden Ring more, because it gives you more options. But I remember briefly picking up Bloodborne on your PS4 and immediately liking the feel of it more.
Well, yeah, it's fast-paced combat. It rewards you for being reckless. Like, you'll get more health just from killing enemies and stuff like that. And yeah, so gameplay wise, it's way faster paced than the previous Dark Souls games. And then Dark Souls 3 kind of adapted some of that faster paced gameplay, which the hardcore Souls fans did not like. They wanted it to be sluggish. like the previous entries. But with Bloodborne, just the whole world and aesthetic and this journey you go on, where it starts out as this kind of classic, like Victorian werewolf setting, everything seems relatively normal for a From Software game, at least.
Yeah.
And then it goes ball to the walls crazy with all the Lovecraftian stuff.
Oh, it's
And,
insane. I remember watching you play some of it, be like, this is even for like a Soulsborne type of game, like from Software, it is fucked up.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and it's horrifying. I remember my first playthrough playing with headphones and playing in my dark room, and just the game has some of the, still to this day, I would love to see like a remake of it, but honestly, it doesn't even need that. Like, it still stands to the test of time, just its art
we need a
style and
PC
art
port,
direction.
though. Come
A
on.
PC port would be nice.
Come on,
Hey,
Sony.
even I want that.
That would be amazing. Speaking of that, I just now found there's a Twitter account, just is Bloodborne on PC, and all of their posts are either Bloodborne memes or Bloodborne has not been announced on PC as of 9th of March 2022. And they just post that like over and over again. Like,
no, Sony's
Which is
extremely greedy and protective of Bloodborne.
I understand why.
PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I even heard rumors they might do a movie of it or something.
I've heard something about
okay.
that. Yeah. There's two PlayStation games that I am dying for them to port to PC. One of them is Ghost of Tsushima. But Bloodborne is the other. I really, really want to get this on the Steam Deck and give it. But a really
I could easily,
shake,
we could easily do a Bloodborne lore episode on this podcast, much like our Dark Souls lore episode. Yeah. But I played. It's one of the games that I've New Game Plus like 7 times, 8 times, something like that. I have 150 hours on it, just on one character. One character.
It's fun seeing your speaking of hours, real quick, going back to, I'm looking on Steam right now, Fallout 4, I have 345 hours into Fallout 4, and probably 300 of those hours are because of mods.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Because I don't think I made it through one playthrough before I started modding it.
But with Bloodborne, though, it was a horrifying game, and it's still a horrifying game. It has some of the best atmosphere and like art direction I've ever seen in a game, and the enemy placement and just the way everything is weird and horrible and out there to kill you, but you are so capable. Like, it really empowers it. I think out of all the games, like, this is the game where you really become the monster, you know what I mean? Yeah. And with all the boss fights, it gets hard. It's still one of the hardest Souls games out there, actually, especially if the DLC. But it's still, out of all their games, though, it empowers you the most, because just the way it's designed, even you get power from their blood, and it says prey vanquished. You're the hunter, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But one of the first moments where you come across over the bridge in Yarnum, and you hear that blood curdling scream. You're not sure what it is, but it's horrifying. There's so many moments like that where you just hear somebody screaming, or old Cockney British people yelling at you from their doors. But then when you fight the not the Bloodstar Beast, the Cleric Beast the first time, I remember that boss actually kind of lulled me into a sense of, oh, maybe this is easier than Dark Souls. Because I actually beat that boss my second try on my first playthrough. I was like, okay. But then you get the Father Gaswin, or Gaswin, or how does he pronounce it? Gaswan, something like that. You get to him, and he's the first like hunter that you fight, and that changes the whole pacing of the game.
I remember that feeling.
And when you're fighting someone just as
um,
fast as you with a blunderbuss, and
I remember that feeling playing the little bit of Sekiro that I played, where like because of how fast and mobile you are, it lulls you into a false sense of security, and then Sekiro turns out to be
right.
like one of the hardest Soulsborne games.
Oh yeah, Sekiro is crazy hard.
Um,
Yeah, I still
but
haven't
like
beat that
at
one.
least at the very beginning of the game, it's like because of like your mobility and the tools you have, it lulls you into this false sense of like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe this won't be so bad.
Well, and also compared to the Souls games, you don't have like 100 different swords and axes and weapons to look through. No, I mean in the beginning, you have the option of the chain whip, the big saw cleaver, and then the hunter's axe. You have those
Mhm.
three options because it's more about your actual combat style than the weapon itself.
Right.
And yeah, you get crazy stuff, and the whole weapon transformation thing is so much fun and so satisfying to do combos with, and you parry with your blunderbuss, and yeah, the lore gets crazy and deep, and you end up, you find out that it gets more and more Lovecrafty, and more is revealed, and like you're fighting elder gods and all this stuff, and you could become one. And then if you get the right ending, if you get the umbilical cord, you can become a little squid baby. Uh, all this crazy stuff, and but I think that game, what it nails just so well is its atmosphere and its art direction.
Yeah.
And every corner, you don't know what horror is going to be around the corner. And it I remember at the time, and still to this day, it is one of my favorite games of all time. And so is Phantom Pain, and so is Witcher 3, which is
Yeah.
saying a lot about this year. There's not
I
many
mean,
years where I have multiple games where I could say it's one of my favorite games of all time.
only
And
every once in a while do we have a year that has so many games that like still to this day, if you go on any YouTube game ranks or IGN or anything like that, they are referencing these games.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
but going back to Bloodborne for a little bit, I recently did a brand new playthrough, completely fresh, without doing any crazy exploits. I didn't even do Do you know the Comfka dungeon?
No.
There's a chalice dungeon, and if you type in "come" PFFFK, or I forget how many F's or P's are in it. Um, but it will spawn you in this dungeon, and you walk like a few feet forward, and then something happens off screen where a bunch of guys die, and you get a bunch of blood souls. And you can just do that over and over if you want easy mode for that game.
That's fun.
Um,
That's fun.
so yeah, Comfka, and it still works. It still works.
Nice.
And the chalice dungeons, I mean, that's a whole other game in itself within the game, that you can grind and, fight some of the hardest bosses there. But I think with like From Software's like vague storytelling, like in the background, and like they do great storytelling within the atmosphere, within the setting, not just from the items and stuff. And there is cutscenes in this, but I think this is one of the best examples of how they do their storytelling, just through the environment. Like you end up in old Yarnum, and you see all the werewolves put on crosses burning and stuff like that.
Right.
And you can see what has been happening to the city, and you travel further in the depths, and yeah, it's just crazy. And it's still one of the most horrifying games I played, and it's not technically a horror game, but damn, it definitely gets spooky. But I think, and then with the boss designs, I mean, you're either fighting other hunters and it's extremely fast paced, or you're fighting big lumbering giants, or you're fighting a big fast thing. Like it's mostly fast paced, and it rewards you for learning their weaknesses, like with other From Software games. It's good boss design, But and also you have the multiplayer elements, and that was one of my favorite aspects of the game, just doing some PvP with my friends. One of my good friends that one of my old sweet mates, I guess you could say. Me and him would just play Bloodborne for hours and hours, just grinding and
Yeah.
just doing dungeons for hours and just like upgrading or leveling up our characters and then traveling the world and getting lost in the Forbidden Woods and like in the witches woods and I forget all the names of the locations, but there were so many surprises in that game too. Like as soon as I thought I've seen all the different boss types, they throw something else in, or they throw a guy in with a bunch of snakes for heads, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or a guy that is just snakes, just a big pile of snakes.
Just snakes. Yeah.
And then you fight like aliens, and weird deities and squid people, and you go to the fishing hamlet, and that's where it becomes like the Lovecraft what's the story? The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we could do a whole episode on any of these games really, but I would love to do a lore episode on Bloodborne at some point.
Right.
Because that lore is, you think the Dark Souls lore is crazy and convoluted and weird. Get ready for Bloodborne. Oh,
Yeah,
and when you fight, I mean, there's so many memorable moments, like when you fight the boss that still kicks my ass to this day. What's his name? Father. No, not Father. He's the one with the Moonlit Greatsword, and FYI, the Moonlight Greatsword is in every From Software game. I even have it for my mech in Armored Core 6. It's pretty sick.
Oh, nice.
What's his name? I gotta look it up. Not Father Lawrence, even though he's an incredibly hard boss as well.
That's Ludwig.
Ludwig, yeah.
Yeah.
What a nightmare that boss was. Still, I mean, it's not one I can consistently beat. Like it still takes a lot of tries to this day.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones like going into my new playthrough. I'm not using any exploits. I'm just playing it like a normal person. Yeah, I'm sped run through a lot of it now because I know all the secrets and I know where to find stuff and I know how to navigate. But I'm getting close to that point where I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna get to the hard bosses now, and I just have to deal with that. But with any From Software game, you do get that huge sense of accomplishment and empowerment when you finally just get it and when you understand it, and it's like when you break through the matrix and everything, and like when you do, I've done speedrun playthroughs of Dark Souls 3 where it only took me like 10 hours, and that's not fast for speedrunners, but that's fast for me, going through the whole campaign.
Well, it's funny that all the Soulsborne games are technically very short games comparatively.
Right, if you
They're
just beat every boss the first time.
If you could beat every boss the first time, they're not long
I think
games
what
at
Bloodborne
all.
does really well though is like there's so many moments where you're not just spending a lot of time fighting the same boss over and over. No, you're just like getting lost in the same area, and, trying to find your way and getting killed by all the random enemies and stuff. But yeah, there's Bloodborne, still one of my favorite games of all time, and it's still one I can go back to and enjoy.
One game before we move on to another one that'll take up more time that I want to talk about briefly. Just Cause 3 came out in 2015.
Oh yeah, that's just stupid fun.
There's not a ton to say about it. Just Cause 2, I remember when that came out, was one of those games that amazed me when I saw gameplay of it. And I
Right.
remember,
Just the scope of it.
I remember playing the free demo of it, which was one of those demos that they just gave you like a 15-minute timer in the open world to do whatever you want with. And I remember playing that. And Just Cause 3, I mean, not everyone hates Just Cause 4, but Just Cause 3 kind of is like the pinnacle of that series. Like it just
Oh yeah,
perfected
definitely.
that like chaos open world thing. And what it does so well is that like from the moment you start the game, everything you do contributes towards your progression.
Yeah.
Um
Blowing
like
shit up.
blowing shit up, taking over bases, doing the mini games, everything is progression. Like, yeah, there are story missions, but and you don't have to do all the open world stuff to progress. But like, at no point are you wasting time by like just messing around in the open world, And it's a good,
No, anything new. Yeah.
it's just a good game. The
Pure
wingsuit is a
chaos.
lot of fun in
Oh
that.
yeah, that's a ton of fun. Um, I'm not sure which game you're talking about. There's some other ones I want to mention real quick.
Yeah,
Kerbal Space Program.
never played it.
Ton of fun. Well, let me just say it's a ton of fun if you actually understand the mechanics and everything. For me, it's more fun to watch people that actually take the time.
I've watched
The
plenty of YouTube videos on it, but I've never played it myself.
Because it does get to the point where it is just like a NASA simulator, just with some fun charm,
Yeah,
where you have to get the orbit trajectory right and everything. And but definitely got to mention it. I've only played a little bit of it. I've gotten into orbit. I haven't like landed on the moon or anything yet
yeah.
because I don't have the time to just sit around and um try to land on the fake moon. But I definitely got to mention it. Another
Um,
one is Mortal Kombat X,
yeah, we've played plenty of
um,
that.
which is yeah, it's I mean, I like 11 definitely, and I heard one's a lot of fun but different with the cameo system and stuff, and they're gonna
mhm.
add Omni Man and everything, which is cool.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen the gameplay for that.
but
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat X though is kind of the peak of the new Mortal Kombat era for me.
yeah,
9 was a ton of fun, but X, I mean, just has so many good characters with like the DLC characters, Jason, Predator, I think
yeah.
Leatherface is in it, Alien, and then it's just and yeah, a lot of people don't like all the environmental kills and like the exploits, and the X-Ray does get a little nuts in it, but it's just
Mhm.
for me, for that type of Mortal Kombat game, I think it's the peak.
Yeah.
Um but
I
11 is also quite fun, but it introduces like the gear system from Injustice 2.
Right.
Um
Yeah.
so it does feel a little different. But yeah,
Yeah,
Mortal
no,
Kombat X is a ton
that's
of
a great
fun. And
one. Until Dawn came out in 2015. Uh,
yeah, I've actually done a playthrough.
I watched you play that.
Yeah,
Where we,
where I made the worst decisions, right?
yeah, that's kind of a fun game. Remy Malik is in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rami Malek.
he's fun. Dying Light, I've never played, but it's notable.
I played it,
I've heard it's pretty good.
and I will say I haven't played Dying Light 2, but for a zombie open world game, Dying Light is one of the best I played, especially for single player. Um, but it's still, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not anything I went back to. It was fun when it came out, but it's not something I go back to. Um,
Um, Rainbow
Also Batman
Six.
Arkham Knight. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
we haven't even talked
we'll
about
have to
that
talk
one.
about that in detail, but let's go over a couple
Okay.
smaller ones first. Rainbow Six Siege came out in 2015. That's notable. Not played
Yeah,
it, but
I haven't played it
I
either.
know it
That's
got
very
pretty big.
hardcore. Oh, it's still big.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate came out in
I
2015.
enjoy it.
It's fine. Um, I
I think
could,
it's a fun world.
yeah,
1800s London.
it had some misses, but it was good in some ways. Let's see what other smaller. Trying to
The whole
oh,
grapple thing was fun.
yeah. Star Wars Battlefront came out in
Oh,
2015.
the
The
EA
reboot.
remake. The
I
second one is
played
substantially better.
I played a ton of that when it came out. Um,
Oh,
and
me as well. But
yeah,
it felt
I don't know.
it
It
still
was
felt half baked compared to its sequel.
I agree. On the other hand, I think there are some things it did really well. I thought it did a better job making you feel like you were like part of a battle than the
Right.
sequel did. The sequel felt a lot more like Call of Duty, like everyone's running around trying to get kills.
Yeah, it does have
Um
a bit more of that going
and which
on.
is fun, but the first one did a better job making you feel like you're, like part of a battle.
The sequel
Um
also had like better prequel stuff and it
yeah,
had the sequel stuff.
the original had no prequel stuff.
Yeah, the
Which
original was just
um
the
it
original trilogy.
yeah, it did have the Walker Assault game mode, which I thought was a bummer that they didn't bring that back for the sequel, because I
Right,
thought
that
that
was
was
a
a really
bummer.
good game mode. But yeah, Batman Arkham Knight, because I
There's some
assume.
other ones I want to mention before we
Oh
talk
yeah.
about that, actually. Call of Duty Black Ops 3, which we
Oh
played.
yeah.
I think it's the best zombies experience you can get from Call of Duty if you're into that.
Mhm.
And with the mods and stuff. Yeah, a ton of fun. And yeah, you can play all the old classic zombie maps remastered. So for a zombies fan, Black Ops 3 is like one of my favorite Call of Duty games. Um, just for that. But I remember the multiplayer was a lot of fun, but that's when they went crazy into the futuristic stuff and wall running and different abilities, and you're playing as a robot and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, which was divisive at the very least. I heard Modern Warfare 3 is trash, like the campaign and everything.
I've been hearing that too. Um
I heard it's basically a glorified, $70 DLC. Like literally, you know how people joke about that. It actually is in this. But yeah,
Jeez, yeah.
I'm everybody that keeps falling into that trap. Call of Duty, there's still good stuff that comes out, but you're always gonna get bad ones too because they come out with one every year. Yeah, and they have different developers doing it.
Yeah.
Um, I would say with Call of Duty, I mean, I would say wait a couple years between releases until you get a good one, and then you can invest. But oh, Lego Dimensions came out. I didn't know that.
Lego Dimensions. I believe
I never played it much.
the early access for Lego Worlds also came out in 2015,
Oh yeah.
which is an okay game.
It's fun because you can collect the toys and kind of like
Yeah.
what are the dragon games? What are they?
What?
Not Spyro. It's like a spin-off of Spyro where you collect the toys.
Oh,
Skylanders.
Skylanders, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that.
Dimensions,
So
yeah.
you can play as all these different
Um
properties that Lego has. Um,
Rise of
also,
Tomb Raider came out that year.
I did play that. Not when it came out. I played it. I think the following year. I got it on
Yeah.
sale. And yeah, it reinvented Tomb Raider. It took a ton from Uncharted, which is funny because Uncharted was took from Tomb Raider and
Right.
upgraded that, and then the new Tomb Raiders took from the new Uncharted's, the gameplay style and stuff, and over the
Yeah.
shoulder, third person shooter action games. Um,
Rocket League came out in
oh,
2015.
I had a ton of fun with that with my
That's
friends, and
that's
I
pretty
know it's
fun.
still going on.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just RC soccer.
pretty
I
much.
mean,
Yeah.
just flipping around and making enemies with each other, pissing people off. Halo 5 Guardians, I don't know much about that one.
I never played that one. It's the one Halo game I've not played any of at all. I heard was pretty bad.
Mm.
People didn't like it very much.
And there's some good indie stuff that came out. Most notable
Five
And
Nights
it's
at Freddy's
actually
3 and 4 both
3. Oh wow, 3 and 4 came out the same year. Wow.
both came out
I
that
saw the
year.
movie, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I forgot
Oh,
to mention
nice.
that. It was
Nice.
fun. It's the type of thing where if you're part of the FNAF fandom, for one, you're probably really toxic, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say maybe you're one of the good ones. It's fun if you know about all the lore and stuff, which I got really into it when it first came out. But it's also it alienates itself from like standard audiences because it's so fan servicey. But at the
Right.
same time, if it wasn't fan servicey, the FNAF fandom would, boycott it.
Yeah, would
Would
riot.
riot, yeah. So it's both to its detriment and to its own benefit that it was fan servicey. But it was fun. It's a fun, just a horror movie that you could take, kids to. But Undertale,
Yeah.
this is one I've been waiting on. Developed
I've
by Toby Fox. It's
never played
kind of a
Undertale. Yeah.
it's kind of a spiritual successor to Earthbound.
Yeah.
It's with its gameplay and art direction, and it has one of the best like chip tune soundtracks I've ever heard in a game. And it's definitely worth a playthrough. I recommend it to everybody listening. I recommend it to you, Colton. I remember because the fandom went so far with it and it got a little toxic, and the memes got a little cringy, but I actually played it a few years ago. I gave it my first playthrough, and it is a beautiful and charming and emotional experience, and just a charming little game full of humor and full of there's actually real emotional depth there, and it is one of my favorite games of all time actually.
Nice.
I would definitely recommend Undertale, and it's just it's a fun experience. I wouldn't want to spoil for anybody that's been living under a rock and doesn't know anything about it. But yeah, it plays like those old RPGs, and but it's got a lot of charm to it. Like one of the earlier things that can happen in the game, you kill this certain character, so you can do a pacifist run where you don't kill anybody and you get the like good true ending, or you could do the genocide run where you kill every enemy. And there's a few different runs you can do, but early in the game there's a critical moment where you kill this character and it makes you feel really bad, and if you go back to your previous save and change your decision, the game, one of the character, this little flower character that's a little creep, will tell you that it knows what you did, that you went back into the earlier save. Essentially, it has a lot of fourth wall breaking moments
There's a
like
lot
that.
of meta
And
game stuff going on.
There's a lot of meta stuff to it, but it is experience I recommend everybody. I haven't actually been in it, but I remember that was such a comfort game when I started playing it, and I started playing it in my freshman year of college, so a little bit after it actually came out, a year or two. But yeah, it is not overrated. It the fandom, much like the FNAF fandom, is pretty toxic and cringe, but actually give the game a chance. Download it on Steam. I think it's like $15, you know. And yeah, it's on the Switch now, I believe. I do. Yeah, I have the Switch port, but I prefer the PC version. I think it's a good game to sit down with a cup of Joe and just relax to. And yeah, the combat's fun. Like you move your heart cursor around and void pellets. Basically, it's all about the charm. That's what carries the game. The soundtrack and the charm. And it really does. And I think there's a sequel being made. I know there's like a little spin-off called oh, what is it? And yeah, Sans is one of my favorite characters. But what's the spin-off? I forget what's like undone. No, not undone. But either way, I think there is a Deltarune. Deltarune.
Right.
I remember playing a bit of that, but the first Undertale, um, I mean, there's even a Reddit for games that feel like Undertale.
Yeah.
It's like, well, just play Undertale again, or play Earthbound. Honestly,
Yeah.
play if you're an Undertale fan that has an itch for more Undertale type stuff, play Earthbound. That's what I'll say. But yeah, uh, huge game, and really during this era is when indie games were really making I wouldn't say comeback, but they were actually being taken seriously.
They were starting to take off. It's starting here, and then the launch of the Nintendo Switch a couple years later, like, was
The Switch really
big
invigorated
for
indie.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend giving Undertale a download. I mean, you can play it on anything. I think there's even Android versions,
Probably.
Apple versions.
Yeah.
But what else? Yeah, I mean, it's a great year.
Yeah,
you have some duds like the Order 1886. I've never played it, but I heard it, just
I've heard it's really
sucks.
short, but like had a
Just
really cool
super
concept.
short. Right.
Batman Arkham Knight, we got to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, Arkham Knight. It has a heavy burden on capping off the Arkham trilogy.
Yeah.
And it is both the best Batman game, but also I don't know, it was kind of fighting a losing battle on trying to surpass Arkham City.
I think the problem with Arkham Knight is it gets really bogged down by its side content, as well as, like, I've been playing it again recently, and while it's a lot of fun, it's the same few mission structures recycled again and again and again and again.
Well, I think
it's you either have Batmobile combat, Batmobile races, or stealth scenarios. Then that's like it. Even like the big like set piece moments, quote unquote, are still like stealth sections that you just have to stealth through.
It fails to live up to the previous game's boss battles,
yeah,
and to like the combat
scenarios,
because there's so much Batmobile stuff.
There's so much Batmobile
and there's so
stuff,
much,
and it's also,
and the Batmobile's a tank, and you're fighting all these drones and everything. Yeah. And I think when Rocksteady was developing the Batmobile for this game, they didn't hold anything back, but maybe they should have. Maybe the Batmobile should have just been your transportation, and that's it. But then they decided
the Batmobile to make combat, it's just there's an awful lot of it. And I'm not just talking about the Batmobile stuff. I'm talking about, like, so you have there's a mission where you have a sniper like it's basically the boss battle with the Arkham Knight, and he has a sniper.
Yeah.
And it's structured just like a stealth section. The same as every other encounter in the rest of the game. It's just the one twist is that there's a guy with a sniper rifle trying to shoot you.
Well, like with Arkham City, they did a great twist on the stealth sections with the Mr. Freeze boss fight.
Yeah.
Where he's constantly changing environment and adapting to your technique, so you always have to do something different.
And Arkham Knight does a great job with that sort of stuff. The enemy AI is the best in the series. I mean, you have to switch up your tactics while you're playing constantly. Otherwise, they will get wise to it and they'll start dropping grenades down the pipes and setting up trip mines for you and stuff like that, because the idea is that the Arkham Knight knows Batman's techniques, so he's telling all his soldiers what to look out for. So it's really
okay.
It's
but
really
another big elephant in the room.
It just lacks really good set piece.
The identity of Arkham Knight. When Rocksteady was like, "This is a completely new original character we've come up with and everything," and everybody was like, "Oh, it's Jason Todd."
Yeah,
Red Hood.
I remember because
it was very obvious.
I had not really been into the Arkham series before this game came out. And I didn't. So
Oh,
I
I
didn't
played
even.
since Asylum.
Yeah. I hadn't even paid attention to this game when it came out. It was like a couple years later that I actually played it. And I remember I missed the whole controversy of like people saying they knew who it was and Rocksteady saying his new character. And I remember I had just watched the animated movie Under the Red Hood.
Right.
And I remember on Steam, this was on
Great one.
sale. And I remember looking at the Steam page of them going, "Who's the mysterious Arkham Knight?" And just looking at the pictures on the Steam page and me going, "Oh, it's the Red Hood."
Yeah, it was pretty
It's
obvious.
it's Jason Todd,
And it didn't.
obviously.
I think the boss fights were much weaker in this game, but overall though, with the combat is the best it's ever been.
Oh, the combat's great.
I mean, everything's the best it's ever been. Maybe it's a little too much of a good thing. And yeah, I think they just went a little too far with the Batmobile content. And we could have had more unique boss battles and missions, but instead we had just a ton of those Batmobile drone missions,
Yeah.
where it's cool at the first time just blowing shit up, but it doesn't feel Batman.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and it doesn't feel.
I do like those tank missions, but after a while, you're just like, oh, another tank encounter.
I got so annoyed. I kept wanting more just Batman stuff, on the ground, and to go another Batmobile mission. But also the Batmobile mechanics is great.
Yeah, I mean,
you're just smashing through buildings and you're going crazy fast, doing big crazy stunts and jumps, and
I mean, I think
the Riddler sections,
this
driving
game is
through those.
One of those where it's the gameplay itself is super refined, really fun, but most of its problems come from the structure of how they built their missions out and how they built
the pacing is a big problem. But still, I mean, it is like the ultimate Batman experience. You can do everything that you would want Batman to be able to do.
Yeah.
And you can launch out of the Batmobile and then go gliding, basically just soaring through the sky. And, you have
though I think that
all of Gotham pretty much to explore.
Yeah, even though I think some of the side content kind of bogs it down a little bit, some of the Riddler stuff and stuff like that. Ultimately, the open world Gotham does serve the game really well.
I think the only thing we've never really seen in a Batman game that Rocksteady should have maybe tried to do with this one, since it was going to be Gotham City, finally, just Batman on patrol, like in a normal Gotham City, not where it's always on lockdown, but maybe that was just because of the limitations on the time where they didn't want to have to worry about a bunch of NPCs and traffic. But I would love to see that type of game.
I mean, I
like with Insomniac Spider-Man, where you're swinging over the traffic. And
I'm guessing that the reason why they did that was because of the tank, like the Batmobile.
They didn't want players.
The way they
running down
it,
civilians.
It's like you wouldn't be able to have very much fun with the Batmobile if they.
That's true. So that makes sense.
And while I do think
design-wise
they overuse the Batmobile a lot in that game, I have heard some people argue that it's like, they put the Batmobile in the game because people since Arkham Asylum have been clamoring, being like, give us control of the Batmobile.
Well, yeah, in the first cutscene, he's driving the Batmobile.
Yeah, and so when it came time for Arkham Knight, they could have just given us a car to drive around in. But they didn't just stop there. They actually gave us combat mechanics to go with it, which even though it's overused, I appreciate that they did do
it's well done. It's just a little too much.
Yeah.
But if they, just like what I've said with Spider-Man 2, like with the web wings and stuff, if Insomniac didn't do that, people would be complaining that they didn't do enough to differentiate it between the previous game and with the traversal mechanics. And if they just half-assed it, people would be bitching about that too. But inevitably, if you go all out with it, you're still going to have people complaining that it's too much.
Yeah.
So like with Rocksteady, with the Batmobile, they had no other choice but to go all out with it, because you would still have more people complaining that it's not enough than the people complaining it's too much. Because
Yeah.
most gamers like having all the crazy OP stuff you can have in a game. Um, at least from what I've seen online, people always complain when you don't have enough abilities or whatever in your game.
Yeah.
But like with the Batmobile, they did with DLC and paired up with different Batman costumes. You can drive around in the Batman '89 Batmobile. You
Yeah,
can
or
drive the
in the
Tumbler.
Tumbler. Yeah.
You can have the Batman v Superman one, and
You can
even
have
the Adam West
Yeah, you can have the Adam West one.
66
The
convertible.
cosmetics in that game are great because
I
not
mean,
only is there a ton of really well designed cosmetics, but I love that. So with the exception of a couple of them, which I think the Christopher Nolan suit is one of these exceptions. All of the
what's
Batman
that?
suits are the Rocksteady Batman wearing that suit,
Yeah, this big buff
which
Batman. So
looks
like in the Adam
really
West suit.
stupid and awkward. I think there's a couple exceptions. Like I think the Christopher
I think it
Nolan
looks really good in the
suit
'89 suit.
actually is like he is slimmed down in that suit. In the cosmetics.
Right. And
But
the
most of them
Dark
it's
Knight suit, yeah.
hilarious because it's this giant buff Batman from the Arkham universe that's like wearing the blue and gray Batman suit from the 80s. Like
Right. You think there should have been more changes to the model itself.
no, I love it. I love that they did that.
Right.
I think it's great.
But yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate Batman experience though, if just for the open world free roamy stuff. Yeah, with the whole Arkham series, I think Arkham Origins, even though it wasn't developed by Rocksteady, I think that's a very underrated game. But yeah, Arkham City takes the cake for like the best Batman game.
Oh
But
yeah.
Batman Arkham Knight is the best Batman simulator.
Yeah, and I think
I think that's a distinction to be
Arkham
made
Knight
there.
to sum it up, I think it's just there's not enough variation in the gameplay.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically you're either in open combat, you're in a stealth scenario, or you're in the Batmobile, and that's it. That's the entire game.
But I would also say visually, I mean, it's still like a few other games here, like with The Witcher 3, but even it got a remaster. With Arkham Knight, I feel no need for I don't think there's any need for it to have a remaster. It's still I mean, it's aged like a fine wine, that game.
They managed to
just it's a beautiful game with all the rain particles and stuff on your suit and the neon lights of Gotham. And yeah, it benefits for being set during the nighttime the whole time.
Yeah, and it's raining like the entire game.
So yeah, so it has all that shininess to it. But it's still a really good game, and yeah, I love I liked doing the Batmobile racetracks and stuff. Like they have the different themed ones, the 89 one, and they have the Adam West one. That one's fun.
No, at times they make really good use of the Batmobile. It's just that they maybe use it a little too much.
Yeah, well, I like using when I play that game, I mostly try to use the Batmobile, especially like if you play with the 89 Batmobile, which is my favorite Batmobile design. Fight me. It's the best Batmobile design. But like you can't transform into a tank. Yeah. So you can't do certain gameplay aspects. You can only play it in new game, like after you've beaten the story pretty much.
Yeah.
That's where it's more enjoyable, where it feels like an extension of Batman, not this other gameplay element they just threw in just because they felt like they had to. That's where it felt like the Batmobile I wanted in the Batman game, where it's just a fast, bulky car with bat aesthetics and a jet engine.
Yeah. And they do a good job with the whole like you can do the whole Batman like stalking the criminals type of thing. You hear them talking amongst themselves.
Yeah.
The fear mechanic is really well done.
Yeah, and like the gliding mechanic, is a ton of fun when you can dive off up buildings and then glide at the last second and stuff like that and get big boosts. Also, we talked about this last night, but they're adding the Pattinson Batman costume
Yeah, we don't
with
know
the Switch port, I
completely.
guess.
Yeah, we don't know completely what the plan is, but they accidentally updated the Epic Game Store PC version with the Pattinson suit, and then
Yeah.
removed it very quickly. Um, and I guess the best guess is that with the Switch trilogy port coming out of the Arkham games, that they're going to be adding some new cosmetics, maybe, and
I'm really
probably
curious to see how this
giving
port
at
works out.
least PC players those cosmetics.
I know it did get delayed again, which is smart. You don't want to release a horrible
Yeah.
Switch port. We've seen how that goes
Well,
with Mortal Kombat.
it's a
But
game that if the Switch port turned out like really well, kind of like how they did, The Witcher 3 was a good port. Um,
yeah,
if I didn't have a Steam Deck, I would totally want to get those games on the Switch.
right. But you have a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
I hope they add the Batman charger or the muscle car, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
That would be
Yeah.
a ton of fun to race
That's
around
a
in.
that's a great version
And
of the
honestly,
Batmobile.
if we did a Batmobile ranking, that would be pretty high up there in my list
That's a great
because
one.
it's just a souped up muscle car. It's just a car.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah, that's a great
Um,
one.
yeah. I mean, the Batmobile's it can be a tank, it can be whatever, but for me, it's a car.
Yeah.
It's a transportation for Batman. But yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I think they definitely went way too far with the Batmobile in that game. And it took away from other mechanics that should have been in it and like boss fights that could have been in it. But
Yeah, I think that's
still a
my
really good game, but the weakest of the Arkham trilogy, because like I said, it's a great Batman simulator, but Arkham City's a better Batman game.
Yeah, it does sit in this weird spot where it has a lot of flaws compared to the other Batman games, but the core mechanics are really, really well refined.
Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
Yeah. But any other games to bring up? I think that's the main ones.
There's definitely some other stuff in here, but I don't. Oh yeah, City Skylines came out. I know City Skylines 2 is
Yeah.
what really is popular now, and they're doing another one. I think it's just called City Skylines again. Their branding's a little confusing, but if you're into city sims, I heard that's like what Sims City should be, and it basically surpassed SimCity,
Yeah,
and now
because
City Skylines is
EA completely fucked over the SimCity franchise.
yeah.
Um,
Xenoblade Chronicles I've never
yeah.
played any Xenoblade games, but I'll mention it for any of those fans. Guitar Forza Motorsport 6. Again, yeah, Forza's fun. I don't know too much about that game in particular, but you know, there you
Yeah.
go. Just throwing you a bone for racing game fans. Um Anything else stands out? Oh, Guitar Hero Live, the failed attempt to keep Guitar Hero alive. No pun intended. I played a bit of it in Clone Hero. I played it like a ported version of it essentially on Clone Hero. You're
Yeah.
playing along. It's just live footage. It doesn't have the the game characters anymore. You're just playing with live footage, and it's just very cheesy. Like you have guys like looking right at you, like, "Yeah, you rock, man," stuff like that. Or if you do bad, they're like, "Boo, you." Uh, it's pretty cringy. I mean, there's some decent songs they put on there, but I never played it. I never bought it when it came out. I was over Guitar Hero. I mean,
Last
shortly after,
actual Guitar Hero I played was Guitar Hero World Tour, which
same.
that
Well, and
was
I
a solid
played some of the
one.
rock. I played the Beatles rock band and stuff, just because I was a huge Beatles nerd. But
Yeah.
uh, but I play real guitar. But I recently got back into Guitar Hero again with Clone Hero,
Yeah.
because there's just so much there. But it takes up a lot of space on your hard drive to download those songs and stuff. Um, But yeah, I mean, really though, with the big highlights, Bloodborne, Metal Gear Solid 5, Witcher 3, Fallout 4. Yeah,
I mean,
amazing year.
I don't want to put too many of these years in S tier, but this is
undeniably S
this
tier.
is an
Oh
S
yeah, and
tier year, I
Undertale.
think.
It is definitely an S tier year.
Like there's
I
multiple
mean,
games on here that have almost permanent spots on my hard drive. Like
yeah.
that I just
Well,
never
yeah, and like I
uninstall.
said, there's multiple games here that not only I still play from time to time, or I've just never really stopped playing, like with Fallout 4, especially mods. I still go back to Arkham Knight. I still am I'm on my 8th playthrough of Bloodborne, you know.
Yeah. Still play
Metal Gear
Phantom
Solid.
Pain.
I'm still playing Undertale. I still haven't actually beat it, but it's a great game. I'm
Yeah.
still playing Black Ops 3. I mean, that's not one of the big ones to mention here, but I'm just saying I'm still playing it some.
Yeah, and
For a lot of these years, I mean,
games are games that keep getting talked about on
right.
YouTube or game journalist websites, you know.
And like the games so far, I mean that says a lot, and that's just not basing off what we're reading and how many games got game of the year or whatever. Reviews say these are games that we still play 8 years later, that are still talked about, that we still care about, that I still consider some of the best games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, 2015, big year for gaming and a definite S tier for me.
Yeah, same. I would agree.
It'll be interesting going to another significant year for us in gaming would be 2018. For me, Spider-Man and
That's a
Red
big
Dead
one
Redemption
too.
2.
That's the
But
next year
I
after
don't
this that
know,
comes to mind.
is it going to have as many games as 2015?
I mean, I know it
that
has
we
some
continue to play.
excellent games, but I don't know if it's an S tier game year. I mean, 2018, let's take a quick look here. Red Dead 2, God of War, Spider-Man, Smash Bros Ultimate.
I mean, those 3 alone are enough. But
yeah, but there's not a lot of other ones that stand out.
I don't still play God of War. I played through God of War once, beat it, and played the sequel. Red Dead 2, Odyssey, everybody still plays Red Dead 2.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey is pretty fun, but it's nothing amazing.
Right, but anyways, I mean, we'll talk about that at some other point. We're probably going to go back far back again for the next one
because we're ranking not based off of the individual games, but the year as a whole. So I'd say totally an S year.
Yeah, definitely with 2015.
Yeah.
Anyways, that would be the end of this episode. But before we sign off here, so yeah, we've been doing video games in time, and then Colton came up with the brilliant idea. It's not a crazy brilliant idea, to be honest. Well, it's a good idea. I don't want to take away from your idea, but it's not like, oh wow, we just created something new. But
it's an obvious idea.
It's an obvious idea, but it's so obvious that I can't believe we haven't done it years ago. We're gonna start doing movies in time. I guess we'll keep it the same thing, movies in time. And where it's like the same thing here, we go through some of the most notable movies that came out within a given year. And since movies have been out even longer, much longer in video games, we're gonna have a lot more to dive into as far as time periods and film genre and styles. And there's gonna be a lot there and a lot of content that we can keep doing, especially for those times we can't come up with anything new or unique. So look forward to some movies in time. It's probably going to be a while because that's going to take a lot more prep.
It depends on the year.
Honestly, it depends on the year. But I think I definitely want to take the time to actually watch some new stuff and maybe try to watch some foreign films, and dip my toes into stuff that I haven't seen before. Same thing with video games in time, but this
Yeah.
year was just too easy. It
Yeah,
was
this
just
was
um,
yeah. But anyway,
anyways,
stay tuned next time. Instagram, Facebook, follow us on social media.
that All Drunk Pod.
Yep. Leave reviews on your streaming service if you can. We always appreciate it.
I appreciate seeing those downloads, of
Yeah.
course. But if you don't want us to take up space on your hard drive or on your phone, just give us a subscription on your platform of choice, or something like that.
Yeah.
Give us a little heart on Spotify, or a little 5 stars would be really nice,
Oh yeah.
Anyways, we'll see you next week.
This is not a test. I repeat, this is not a test. The Odd Drunk Podcast recommends you follow their Instagram and join their Facebook group for more fun content. To visit all of our current streaming and social media platforms, visit the link tree in the description. If you enjoy the show, we would be appreciated it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The Odd Drunk Podcast would like to remind you to drink responsibly and not to drink and drive.